Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices with the boxing gloves. Okay, so now we're going to our hot topics, and I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Shotwell to lead us with that discussion, simply because I don't know a whole lot. I'm going to learn a lot in a few minutes about what our hot topics are.
All righty then. So the, we have a phenomenon across this country, aka known as Karen, and it looks like this phenomenon in the behavior of these white women and other women who are taking on the same characteristics as a Karen, where she is antagonizing. In the case, remember the Central Park Karen, where she called the police on a brother who was simply watching some birds. We've had the Karen who, the lemonade Karen, who called the police on a little black girl who was selling lemonade in front of her mama's house. And then recently we have the HVAC Karen who is a Asian woman who called the police on a brother as he was working on her HVAC unit in snow. So the question that becomes is with the growing uh, movement of Karen and Kens, because we have some male Karens as well, known as Kens. What are we as Black people going to do to try to get that part under control? So I'll open it up to my seat buddies.
Okay.
Caleb,
No, it's probably something that's as old as our history in this country.
Yeah.
And it's the weaponization of white skin, and so they use that. They scream and I'm going to call the police. And so it's a weaponization of white skin and a criminalization of black skin. And so I think, again, in a lot of times when the police do show up in a situation, they'll say, oh, they'll go and they'll talk to the person and they'll kind of resolve the situation. Oh, well, they were just selling lemonade. Oh, well, they were just bird watching. And so and there are laws on the books about call the police and misuse of they'll charge you with misuse of public resources and stuff like that. So again, my solution is they need to start charging these folks who are calling police for no reason. You know what I mean? That's as simple as I can make it. Call the police on these folks and they'll stop.
well, would a serious lawsuit help minimize it even more so? Because I think in one case there was a Karen, and of course her face got posted on it went viral, and she lost her job. So should we start suing these? I'm gonna say these Karens, so that
Yes.
so that they can say that we're not taking this anymore. You act a fool, we go legal fool on them.
Well, it's America's disease is racism. And I think we all know that. And white women have been brainwashed with that racism, so that I don't know if they still do it. I know years ago, if a black guy was walking down the street, they'd go on the other side of the street, or they'd hold on to their purse, assuming that we all had to be gangsters or doing something. Or if you pull up next to them and they're in the car here, then they reach up and lock the door. That whole mentality, and I think that's part of what you're discussing here with them calling in on these brothers who are doing nothing.
And they're even calling in on our kids, on our babies. Most recent case was little black girls watering their neighbors' bushes and plants while they were on vacation. Here comes Karen, wanted to see, I'm gonna call them their manumission papers, if you will, and called the police on these little girls. And of course, the father, intervened and everything and got involved in it. But the issue is that these Karens are feeling too empowered to do the things that they're doing, to where somewhere down the line somebody's going to get hurt, especially if the wrong police show up and they get trigger happy.
Is this something that is increasing, or are we seeing it more now because of social media?
I think we're seeing it more and more.
I think you're becoming more aware of it.
Do you think this is the same thing going back years? And you all were talking about it off camera. The lady did the Emmett Till.
Right. There is no consequences. And I know how you feel about a 90-year-old being arrested and put in prison. But we go all the way back to Mrs. Bryant when she, falsified her claims against Emmett Till.
Right.
Emmett got murdered. And so, but there are no consequences for what she did, even till now. And yes, I have no problem with a 90-year-old woman, in this case who is white, having a warrant activated on her to where she may have to spend the rest of her life, which is not going to be too short, in jail. So there has never been any consequences, and I think we need to start every time a Karen, does something, we need to be in that court system, and we need to be filing, and filing lawsuits, because the only way, in my mind, that they're going to be under control if they start seeing some action being taken.
Well, let me ask a question to Fred. If we, on your point, if we cannot bring those people who have violated things to justice, this lady with Emmett Till, who they have a warrant out for, okay, and should have been acted upon, but was not. If we can't force that to happen, can we force anything else in the black community?
What do you mean, can you force anything else? Yes,
We're trying to force change.
yeah.
And we cannot force change. If we can't bring those people to justice, or at least to have this.
Those people. I mean, you talk about one 90-year-old lady, okay?
Well, but
Look at those
okay,
people.
so she's the prototype of the modern day Karen. But the point that he's trying to make is, if we are activating our rights to go file for charges, to start suing, in other words, we want consequences for these behaviors, and if these consequences are not initiated,
If we can't get them.
Let me ask you all this. In terms of that lady, is going after a 90-year-old lady, are you looking for justice or revenge?
Yes.
Or revenge?
both,
And revenge.
both.
What is there anything positive about revenge?
Well, the only thing is that, and I already know, you've already expressed to say that, you're concerned about putting a 90-year-old person in jail. But until mainstream society starts seeing that, dang, they put a 90-year-old woman in jail for what she did to Emmett Till, maybe it may slow down these other Karens, because they will realize, oh, justice will prevail.
Exactly.
Or even more recent example was Tamir Rice and the 911 call, and listen to the description, his description. And so they made him out to be a 6-foot-tall behemoth, and the police that was waving a gun, and the police shows up, immediately jumps out the car and kills a 14-year-old child. And so that right there, that would have been an instance where they should have gotten that call. They should have traced that. They should have known where the call came from, who made that report, who made the description, and they should have had a civil lawsuit against that
And I have no problem
caller.
with that.
Right.
I
That's
agree-
something
I
that's
agree
more
with that.
recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, and so when you have these Karens that are making these descriptions that are criminalizing black presence, definitely. I mean, it's shown that it can be tragic. It can, and a lot of times, and the problem I have with it is because the women who are making these calls, these Karens know what the outcome potentially could be. And so again, they weaponize their whiteness. So I have no problem with that. Again, but the problem with suing these folks is that there has to actually be some kind of harm that comes from that interaction. So if the police walks up and they talk to you and there's no physical interaction or anything like that, then I think it'd be hard to gain some kind of monetary damages from that interaction. But if there is some kind of harmful interaction that comes of it, then of course you're able to sue that person who made that call, that false call. But again, there are laws that are on the book, and it's a matter of getting the police
The laws on the books against calling in.
on a false, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they can, now the police can go after them for money, for wasting public funds or wasting public resources. And I mean, there are a couple of different laws, because you also, not only are you wasting public resources, but you're taking away from them being able to respond to a real call.
Right.
So there are a few different laws on the books.
Do you think that them seeing other people arrested, do you think they are that rational thinkers that they say, well, I better not do this or I'll get arrested? Or is their racism so subjective, so emotional, that they couldn't even rationalized
Right.
out.
It could go either
The-
way because you can have some of them that are like, I know if I don't make this the best call I can make, then I'm gonna get in trouble. So they're gonna really, go
There-
full throttle.
There is a movie out called Karen,
Mhm.
starring Christina Ricci,
Mhm.
and it went from bad to worse, to where two people ended up getting killed in this movie at the end. But the problem was that her Karenizing was allowed to grow over time.
Mhm.
So something needs to be done. I think that we as a black community need to not have any fear of going down to the police station, pressing those charges, and if need be, suing.
Well, okay. It happens to Joe over here. I
Mhm.
find out about it.
Mhm.
Can I go in and press the charges, or does that
No.
person have to go in?
That
They have-
person.
They have to go in and press
You
the
got to
charges.
encourage them to do so.
Okay,
Silence is only
Mhm.
being complicit.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. Any other
Mhm.
comments on this?
No, I mean I'm in a agreement. They need to be charged for filing a false report, making a false report, wasting resources. Something definitely needs to be done because you have there's so many times where you have the officers come out and resolve the situation and then go and explain, hey, well, this little girl, she was only doing research on tree disease. That was the little girl with the with the Princeton deal. So she was a little girl. She was only doing research, and then they walk away. The person isn't made to apologize.
So they're both to blame. The lady that reported and the police.
and the
didn't do
police
it.
who didn't
And
do right.
see, when you talk about with kids,
Right.
it's the residual mental effect of the event that's still there.
Mhm.
Right. It sticks with them.
With
Mhm.
with the child.
Yeah.
With the child.
Okay, well, I think we can kind of wrap up. You want to take a shot at wrapping up the first, then we'll go around?
Not really.
Okay.
No, well, I tell you what. No, I definitely want to get that brother back on. Great discussion. I definitely want to know more about his schools. He has one here, one in Atlanta, he says he has one over there. I definitely want to know more about him. I want to know about his program, the outcomes. There's something to be said about exposing kids to the broader world and letting them know that they are part of a global community
Okay.
and not just here in the United States and subject to the things that go on here in the United States. So I definitely want to talk about that. I want to talk about the experience of living on both continents, the experience of bridging that gap. You know what I mean? And so there's a large African American diaspora that live on the continent. So I want to explore that. I want to explore the parallels between the two systems. They had a recent experience with apartheid over there. We had our experience with apartheid over here. And so I definitely want that brother to speak about those two systems. I definitely want to speak to him. I mentioned the Limba tribe over there in South Africa. I want to see how much he knows about the Limba tribe. The Limba tribe is about DNA. Their African DNA. They are a descendant from the priestly Cohen tribe. The DNA was done by the Israelis themselves. And so they are so there you go. So I definitely want to talk about that. So I want to get that brother back on here. And as far as the Karen situation goes, we definitely need to take steps to because it has proved fatal in the past. And so I can only imagine how many times, man, we've missed the dodged a bullet because they weaponized that. And so I definitely need to we definitely need to come to a solution on that. But other than that, I'm good.
Okay, doctor.
Well, we had a good show today,
Mhm.
and I guess the overarching theme is how do we fight? How do we
Mm-hmm.
fight? And one of the things I mentioned that that he's mentioned in a video,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Wilson did mention in the video, was that we fight this
Mm-hmm.
continual protesting hasn't gotten us anywhere, and so
Mm-hmm.
now we need to look at economic protest, and so. A lot to learn, a lot to consider. But the other piece I want to say is that our Black Wall Street might be the internet, and there are a lot of businesses a lot of Black businesses on the internet that we can start buying a lot of our products from.
Okay.
I would just like to say thank you to Dr. Byron Wilson and the Wilson Academy for his appearance on our show today. I would also like to encourage all of you to visit our website at contemporaryblackvoices.com, and also go to the YouTube of the Black Video Network so that you can see our videos, as well as hopefully we might be able to put How We Fight, rebroadcast that. And if we can't, then look for it on the YouTube network as well. How We Fight by Dr. Byron Wilson of the Wilson Academy. I think it's been a very good talk today. I really enjoyed the information that we had. I really wish we had had more time, and I hope that we can get Dr. Wilson back. So I hope that everyone will look at our video, like our video,
Make comments.
and make comments. We do listen and look at our comments and try to respond as much as we can. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, and next week, Dr. Chadwell has a special show. You want to mention the subject for next week?
Still working on it, but I want to look at this topic of how the Black church can bring equity into education. And if not there, then where?
Okay, that should be just as hot as this one was.
Right.
So we thank you for tuning in. We look forward to being with you on our next show. And in the meantime, we will continue to tell our story our way at Contemporary Black Voices.